another argument, the final argument in this chapter, the first chapter of my book called The Heresy of Heresies, a Defense of Christian Common Sense Realism. And this is section 1.2.3. This chapter, again, just to review, is a chapter in part 1 of the book, which is called Reality Revisited, as it was in the beginning, is now, and never shall be. And the chapter 1 is called Common Sense Realism, A Place to Begin. There are 3 parts to the chapter, and the first part is about reflecting on what is. The second part is what I mean by common sense ontological realism, and the third part is some arguments for common sense realism. The first argument we looked at was from G.K. Chesterton, the second from Etienne Gilson, and this third short argument is going to be from James Schall by way of Hillaire Belloc. So if you're a fan of either of those 2 authors, you might enjoy this little argument. And then I'll conclude either in this video or the next. Might be this video. See how long we do on Schall's argument from Belloc, and then that'll wrap up this chapter. So, okay, this argument's an argument from Schall via Belloc, and subtitle is A Gift Most Obvious. So, in each of my classes, each semester, I distribute a cheat sheet for the final in my philosophy courses. Actually, in all my courses, there's a final, and I have a cheat sheet for it. And final for all my classes is how my students live their lives. That's their final. The cheat sheet for the final is a list of books which help my students stay sane, and several books on that list are by James Schall. Schall has a way of making things simple. He's a master of metaphysical docility, the ability to take someone willing to learn the truth of what is. An essay on Hillaire Belloc, Schall wrote, and this is a quotation from his essay. The essay is called On Disliking Champagne but Delighting in Existence. And you might be able to find it online if you hunt around. Maybe try archive.org and look at Schall's homepage. It's stored there. You have to kind of hunt around to find it, but you do some sleuthing, and you'll find it. Okay, here's what Schall wrote. If you want to get Belloc's point, try to command something before it exists to exist. We don't have the power of existence as such in our arsenal. This is the great Thomas truth, the truth of existence. Existence is the gift we don't give ourselves. We only receive it. That is why, from our side, to recall Belloc's friend Chesterton, gratitude is the first response to being. End quote. That's end of Schall's quotation. Schall's main point here is that when we study metaphysics, ontology, the study of being qua being, we begin with a recognition of what is. Existence is not our own making. It is something given to us. Thus, the metaphysician should be careful and be most grateful of students, for the metaphysician is thinking carefully in wonder and in awe about a gift that need not have been given. Further, in the same essay, Schall writes, this quote from Schall, "This is the most marvelous of Belloc's sentences." So he's commenting on Hillaire Belloc, and Schall wrote a book on Belloc. It's quite good. And here's the quotation from Belloc. "To delight in existence itself, this is the highest mark of sanity and reality. If we can delight in existence itself, we can, even more, delight in the tiny particular being that exists, a strong sense of individual existence." End quote. Again, that's from Schall's On Disliking Champagne but Delighting in Existence. There's a delight to metaphysics, this is back to me now, to the study of being, of existence. If Schall and Belloc are right about this, then we have a good reason to study existence. Existence should be studied because it's delightful. Now, if you've spent time in the ocean, or if you're a surfer, like myself, you often hear the term stoke to describe the most delightful, the delight of wave riding. So stoke is a term used. Maybe stronger than delight, I don't know. I have to think about that. To describe the delight of wave riding. Metaphysicians are stoked. Ontology is the second most stoked of the sciences. Theology is the most stoked. For ontology gives us an account of what is, and theology reveals who is. The joy of metaphysics is the delight that we find in the gift of what is. given to us by our direct awareness of what is. Stoked ontologist. In another essay, Schall elaborates further on the importance of why we should study existence. He writes, and this is from a little essay that he wrote called Why Do Things Exist? These reflections were caused by an email which I received the other day. A young man, evidently a teacher, wrote to me something he admitted that sounded strange and almost funny. He observed that, quote, "For the majority of my students, the existence of things is almost irrelevant. For them, everything is how you choose to think about it." But then I suppose it is the job of the philosopher, especially the Christian philosopher, to insist on the obvious, because that's what's most likely to be taken for granted. End quote. I love that quotation, right? Because philosophers, even in these videos I've been doing for this first chapter of my book, it's like Christian philosophers, we have to state the obvious, because that, in a culture that rejects common sense, that is what is taken for granted. We have to state the obvious, right? I mean, in almost all areas of human life right now, we have to state the obvious. And sometimes stating the obvious has to be done with courage and not caring about the consequences. Right? I mean, look, as philosophers, we should know that. We have the people who started philosophy, people like Socrates, who had to state the obvious. Let's just say things ended poorly for Socrates. But as a Christian philosopher, we look to our founder, Jesus, as the place to begin for Christian philosophy. And you might say, well, if we follow him, we might end up like him. That would be a wonderful thing, to end up like him. But it comes with the cross. Right? You can end up being like Jesus, but you'll also end up like him as maybe a martyr on a cross. Right? This is the risk of doing Christian philosophy, Socrates and Christ. Okay, back to the book. What Schall refers to as strange and funny would be so if it weren't so tragic. The existence of things and the existence of existence itself is irrelevant today. To insist otherwise is heretical. Now, gratefully, Schall and the wise down through the ages recognize the existence of things is the most relevant fact about the things we daily encounter. That's from Schall. Schall and other true ontologists down through the ages continue to insist on the obvious, because that is indeed what is often most taken for granted today. The obviousness of existence is truly amazing, according to Schall. He states, quote, "What is amazing about something is not how we feel about it, or even what we will do with it. Before we can have any of these reactions, we must know, acknowledge, and even celebrate the existence of things." End quote. Again, that's from his essay on disliking champagne and delighting in existence. The joy of metaphysics, of delight, the stoke, the celebration of what is, can only come to us when we recognize that what is a gift to us. This leaves us with a question, according to Schall. Here's what he states. This is back from his essay, Why Do Things Exist? He says this: the question is, what understanding of the existence of things can support this gift status of things? Only the understanding, I think, that finds in existence itself as we know it no reason why it must be, no reason in itself why it must not be. The existence of things bears all the mark of choice, abundance, and truth. And if this is so, what is the primary human reaction to the existence of things? One that must be there before all others? It can only be, I think, that of gratitude. The gratitude for existence should motivate us to be very clear on what existence is. A gift given is surely motivation to not only know the gift itself, but also the giver. Is it reasonable to be given the greatest of gifts and ignore both the gift and the giver? One can, of course, choose to ignore both. And Schall has pointed out that institutions of higher learning are filled with people for whom the things that exist, what is, are irrelevant. All right, let me conclude this chapter with the conclusion paragraph here. This will be the last video on this chapter. Can we ignore sunsets? I seem to recall Peter Kraft pointing out that when people go to the beach, They don't they don't sit facing the parking lot generally. I mean, maybe if you're in a circle and you're talking to your friends, maybe so. But when you go to the beach, most people face the ocean. Every summer, especially on holidays, the beaches of Southern California, where I live, and beaches all around the world are literally packed wall to wall with people. Nearly all of them are looking at the sea, even more so at sunset. Nobody ignores a beautiful sunset when it's right in front of them, or at least very few do. Yet something greater than the sea is in front of us at every moment. Something greater than a sunset is always before us. Reality is that gift that is right in front of us, always with us. What is a gift that has been given. One of the main reasons to continue reading this book, is to explore the gift of what is and to begin to have some knowledge of the giver. Thanks for watching.
Stay psyched, Grom. You!